Hello, and thank you for joining California Competes' 10th anniversary interview series. This interview series engages higher education and workforce development leaders around California's thorniest issues. In this interview, I'll be speaking with Arizona State University President Michael Crow. President Crow's vision, not just for ASU, but for higher education in general, is the more, the merrier. And his concept of the new American university has guided national conversations and how to better serve larger numbers of students through online education, employer partnerships, and more. Since taking office in 2002, President Crow has positioned ASU at the vanguard of a new fifth wave in higher education. He's made the compelling case that America's future depends on embracing a radical expansion of access to public colleges and universities. It's our institutions that need to grow and adapt to meet the needs of potential students, not vice versa. And he has used his position to create and refine a model to do just that. Let's learn more and turn to the interview.
Thank you for joining me today, President Crow.
Happy to be here, Sujin.
So sparking meaningful change, especially from the inside, is incredibly challenging. And public colleges and universities are known on top of that for being institutions that are difficult to change. How have you managed change at ASU?
I think the most important thing has been to sort of revisit why we exist, our social responsibilities. So we came up with the model of what the new American universities would need to be if we were really going to achieve egalitarian access, if we were going to break down a lot of the barriers of the past, if we were going to find a way for people to be connected to scholarly and research grade faculty from every community. And so we attacked and really approached our transformation of our culture. So we moved at culture change, the empowerment of our faculty as academic designers, as intellectual designers, the empowerment of the university to be of service to the community. We really worked on all of those things and set all of those things up as the way that we've approached it. So we didn't approach it in a strategic plan change or an organizational change, but in a deep-seated cultural purpose approach.
Great. And one of the things when you talk about the new wave and the new American university is serving many more students and many non-traditional students. For example, more students of color, student parents, immigrants, adult learners. How have you navigated that in the university that has traditionally served students just out of high school and in a very different model? And then how do you balance that with people who are resistant that may say, increasing access could have an impact on quality?
Interesting. So on this issue of increasing access, we really said, well, we're a very privileged part of our society. We have massive resources, a massive library, massive buildings, technology, everything imaginable, really smart people that we brought to the university, both the faculty and the staff. Surely we can educate 2 or 3 more people per student we have on campus. Can't we figure out a way to do that? Could we educate 4 times as many with the same faculty? And the answer is, if you put it that way, we can probably figure out how to do that. And so using innovation, using technology, using creativity, using the drive of our faculty, all these things, we've been able to make that happen. And to this question of watering it down, how do you maintain quality? It's actually just the opposite. And so it really has turned out that our innovative faculty, driven by pedagogical innovation, driven by technological innovation, driven by design innovation, have become even more powerful. I now think of them as super faculty. So they're not the regular sort of narrowly focused faculty member. They're super faculty. They have students on campus, students online, research projects, community engagement. They're reaching out to some that are not even college students, helping people to go to college, using technology as their sort of force multiplier. And so that's really what we figured out how to do.
So one of the things that people talk a lot about ASU is the partnerships with Starbucks. Can you talk about sort of how you connect with employers? Where did that come from, and why did you feel like that was an important thing to do?
Well, Howard Schultz, the former CEO and founder of Starbucks, and myself were a part of a national initiative to think about the way to move forward the workforce development of the United States. And we both came to the conclusion that companies and universities were archaic institutions that needed modernization around the central focus of the worker. And so how could we build human capital across all populations, all groups, all family backgrounds, If you have a job, you maybe didn't go to college. If you worked at Starbucks, maybe you didn't finish college. Well, let's have you go to college, have you finish college, and let's incentivize you by saying that you can do that without incurring any debt or any cost. So we have 18,000 students in our college achievement program. We've graduated 7,000 students in the last few years in that program. We're accelerating that program forward. And so it's a way for a person to finish college, and it's a way for a person to go to college. More than half the people, Sujan, that started college in the United States since 1980 have never finished. More than half the people that have taken a Pell Grant have never finished. And so if you look at communities around the country, particularly middle class, working poor, and poor communities, including the broad ethnicities that exist within those socioeconomic groupings, they've not done well in college. And college has not been adaptable, in my view, to them. And so this Starbucks program is a way in which we're being adaptable to people who need to work, people who didn't finish college, and so forth. So it's a part of what we do.
That's great. So some of our research in California, we found that there are over 4 million people that have some college and no degree in California, 6.8 million without a college degree and a high school diploma, and 5.1 million who intend to enroll in college in the next 2 years. So thinking about how do we create better pathways, make it more affordable, something that we think about a lot in California Competes.
Well, those 14 million people that you just mentioned, there is no pathway easily for them because there's no capacity built at that scale. So college can't be a place of just a few campsites, where a university or a college is set up. It's got to be basically accessible at home, accessible at work, accessible for a 17 or an 18-year-old on campus, accessible in your community, accessible in your community group, all these things, and that's just not the way that it's designed. Right.
How did you, so thinking about, the relationship with Starbucks is, clearly one high-profile example. How can higher ed leaders, how can business leaders think about building those partnerships? How does that become sort of the fabric of how universities work?
So the thing, one of the places I think universities get off track on is that they believe that their measurement of success is their competition against other universities. How many students did we not admit that applied? How much money did we get for research versus somebody else? And those are certainly indicators of something, but they can't be the indicator of the success of a public college or a public university. We need indicators of success that are tied to the community indicators of success. So have we changed workforce dynamics? Have we changed employability? Have we changed family outcomes? Have we changed K-12 outcomes by producing better teachers, better principals, better superintendents, better tools, better analytics? Have we done all of those things? And so we're aware of all those things, but we don't use those things to indicate whether or not we've made progress. So what we need are indicators of social level success. And so we've designed our institution at ASU to be measured against the social outcomes that we're attempting to influence.
So when you retire, if you look back, what's the sort of thing that you feel like you'd be really proud if you were a success? What's that indicator that?
For me, it's deeply rooted culture change, which has a faculty deeply committed to the community who are using innovation to impact everyone. Another part of that would mean that all these fake bugaboos that we have, like math and science, that keep students from moving on in their lives, that those are all gone. The English language is conceptually and algorithmically more complicated than learning chemistry or math, but we've made chemistry and math so complicated that most people can't learn them. Well, that's our fault. And so what would make me really happy is a culture that takes responsibility for the community, also called a university, that's embedded in the community, that's deeply committed to all the communities within the community itself, and makes all of that work. And if we could make that much culture change and then give them the tools to work, then I would be a happy camper.
So that's a big idea. Can you talk, what does that look like? What is the math and science sort of the future?
Well, let me tell you, that's one of the biggest things that we're working on. So we have now built an entire undergraduate biology degree where every course has built in adaptive learning tutoring between the entire undergraduate curriculum. We're working with a California company called Dreamscape Immersive down in LA, where we're looking at full virtual reality immersion into a science lab that's an alien zoo that then equalizes all educational experiences. So any kid walking in has no advantage over any other kid. And then it turns out then you can master biology. We've gone this far enough down the road that we can master biology. On math, we've built the same sorts of tools. We have a massive philanthropy working with us in math because we realize that math and science is this bugaboo, that it's kept so many people from doing what they wanted to do and kept so many people out of college and so many people flunking out of college, quote unquote, which is all, so we're putting immense energy into this. It's one of our main areas of innovation. So
I would be remiss not to go back to, you mentioned a virtual reality alien zoo.
Yeah. So Dreamscape.
That may not be a thing that most people are familiar with.
Yeah, so Steven Spielberg and Walter Parks created this conceptual thing that rather than watching a zoo or a movie, you're in it through virtual reality. And so you're in a spaceship that has thousands of species from all over the galaxy. And so you get to experience being in this alien zoo. And then we've now built with them the way in which you go into this alien zoo now as a student. So if you and I were there, you'd be an avatar, whatever you wanted to look like or have your body look like. Same with me. We go in as avatars. We can go in with other students, and we're in a pod, and we're flying around. We can see each other, talk to each other, interact with each other, and then we are given a series of problems to solve in our encountering of these species. Long story short, by the time you're done, you've completed first year biology for college. And everything you need to know from biology from high school.
Wow.
And no books, just this experience and the learning tools that we've built. Here's what we found so far in our early testing. 27% average increase. So F students became C students become A students become masters. And so for us, we're like so excited about this. It's really, really something that we're working on. We're releasing the first full immersive learning experience in January of 22 and the full semester course in August of 22.
Wow. I feel like I'm going to have to get a job at Starbucks so I can check out this. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So the employer partnerships for employees is great. How do you work with employers around like work-based learning or for students that, enroll outside of, their employers?
So we restructured the university around 3 enterprises. Our academic enterprise, which are traditional degree programs in 400 subjects. What we call the knowledge enterprise, which is the structure of the university to focus on really important things like global climate change and sustainability. And then we've also just launched a thing called learning enterprise, which is under the leadership of Maria Anguiano. And so Maria is our executive vice president for learning enterprise, and her assignment is take everything that we have, everything that we own, every course, every sub-course, every element of our library, disaggregate all of it and make it available to any learner, anywhere, any age, any point in their life. And then, spice that up with everything else that we can find from any other place, like software courses and design courses from others outside the university. Then make all of that available across a person's life, and we're calling these universal learner courses, ULCs. And so we realize that we've been too selfish. We've held all our stuff in. We haven't disaggregated it enough. It doesn't mean that others aren't doing some of this. They are, but this is something that we're really focusing on.
And then how do employers connect to that, or do they?
Well, they can. So they can connect by coming to us with universal learner courses outcomes. They can come to us and say they want certain things. They can come to us with a desire for micro credentialing, micro masters, micro bachelors, certificates, merit badges, all these things. And so employers can connect to us in all of those ways, or individuals, either way.
For our final question, I think one thing that in California as we think about, having increasingly ambitious conversations around the role of higher ed in the state, and we've had some really ambitious programs launched with our budget surplus this year. If you were based in California and leading an institution here or some other role focused on higher ed, I guess what would you be thinking about? What would be the issues that you think California should be tackling related to higher ed right now?
Well, we are partly based in California. We just opened a fabulous new facility in downtown Los Angeles in the old Herald Examiner building. We have about 30,000 total students from California, both in Arizona and online, and we're adding thousands of students in downtown Los Angeles also in a number of programs. But California, 40 million people, growing rapidly, unbelievably diverse, leading edge of the economy and so forth and so on, is also at the same time socially so complicated that it has very dramatic unevenness throughout the state. And so to me, the California begs the question of innovation. How do we increase and accelerate the rate of innovation of all institutions of higher education in California so that they can take on 3 times the learners or graduate 4 times the folks that they have now that they're not graduating. So enhancing productivity and success of the students taking on more learners, expanding capacity, making these things happen. There's no way one's going to build 100 new universities in California to do that. You've got to take on innovation.
Right. So I have another question. I know I said that was my last. You mentioned you have a campus in LA.
Yeah.
And I think this is the first time that California has had another state university open a campus here. Can you talk about what led you to do that?
So Los Angeles is a global city. California is a little mini sun. Arizona is in the orbit of that global city and that sun. It's one economy. It's a regional economy. It's a regional culture. We're regionally codependent environmentally. We have the same water issues, the same complicated issues of the West. We've got labor movement back and forth, economic movement back and forth. The notion that there's a gap or a divide is a silly way to look at things. And so we're engaging in the economy and the region that's most important to us for the success of the region itself, including California and Arizona.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation, and I think for really tackling big issues in higher education I feel like in service not just ASU, but the U.S. as a whole.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for tuning in and listening to this conversation.